Hello and welcome to our final video presentation. This one is going to be about problem solving and understanding different perspectives. When do we need to be able to solve problems and understand perspectives? Especially when we are in a situation that we could call a conflict. What is a conflict? It can be any situation where participants have different opinions, and the exchange of these opinions could worsen the relationship between the participants. These are interpersonal conflicts, and when we're discussing communication, we are, of course, addressing this type of a conflict situation. We could, of course, also have a conflict on the level of the interpersonal situation. So I could perhaps need to decide between two situations. There could also be a conflict between my conscious and subconscious. However, these will not be the topics of today's presentation. So, addressing the conflict as a situation where two people can enter a discussion that would worsen the communication would require a few skills, and by following a couple of guidelines, we can minimize the option of actually creating a conflict. The first one is that we need to admit our mistakes. If we make a mistake, sometimes we tend to hide it. We tend to say, no, this is somebody else's problem. But in admitting our mistake, we come closer to the person and we are immediately on the path of solving this problem or lessening a conflict. It's very difficult to do so, but if we're prepared to work hard and look for solutions, this is a very good step to start in trying to resolve a conflict. Then, when we enter a discussion about something that is a problematic issue, we need to remember that we'll remember the beginning of the conversation and the end of the conversation. What's in between might be somewhat forgotten. So it's important to start the conversation by saying, okay, our purpose today is to discuss this and this situation, and to recap our conclusions at the end. So in the end of the conversation, let's say we agreed upon this, this, and this. Then it's important to use the previously learned communication skills. We need to pay attention to verbal communication, to nonverbal communication, to the synchronization of both. And we need to use I sentences, to listen actively. The more we do that, the more likely we are to solve such a situation in a manner that will suit both participants or more participants if there's more than just two people involved in the communication. Also, if we enter a discussion when we're relaxed, when we feel okay, we're able to think rationally. Otherwise, we become very emotional, and once we get upset, it's very difficult to discuss logical issues, and conflicts are often something that's based on emotions, which is why it's so difficult to be logical about it. Then to continue, there are additional guidelines or rules to a good resolution of a conflict. One, for example, is that we need to listen while the other person is speaking. We tend to finish other people's sentences, we tend to jump into their discussion, but that just shows the other person that we do not respect their point of view. If we stay quiet and wait for them to finish, we have a far better chance of a good conversation. Also, sometimes it's difficult for us to compromise, especially if we're in the situation of being more powerful. So, for example, if we're the coach, or if we're the boss of the company or the owner of the company, we tend to get the other people to do what we want them to do. So, my way or no way whatsoever. Taking time to make a compromise may be difficult, but it eventually yields no losers. So we give something and we gain something, and again the other person gives something and gains something. Basically, we're building a bridge across the river instead of making the other person to swim to our side of the river. Let's take a look at a quick video on compromise. In this video, we can see that the rabbit and the raccoon learn from other animals' mistakes. Most of the time, we make a couple of our own mistakes before we start learning from them, but taking a compromise or accepting a compromise is something that makes the other person feel good, wanted, and taken into account, and it's a very good option to do, especially when we basically need to keep working with this other person. In a business setting, it's extremely important for other people to see that we're able to compromise in situations. Also, sometimes we are not completely sure what the other people mean or want from us, and we don't ask them, we just jump to conclusions. Don't do that, just ask. So if we believe that we've come to a solution, let's talk to the other person. Do you agree? Is this an acceptable solution for you also? We also need to pay attention to intense emotional reactions. When people get upset, it's very difficult to finish the conversation in a logical manner. And the worst thing in discussing a conflict situation is pulling rank. We can ultimately say, this is going nowhere, it's going to be my way. This is called using legitimate power, and it's a very bad way to finish a discussion. It tells people that you believe you're the boss and that you're not willing to compromise, and if nothing else, you've just wasted a lot of time on a conversation that yielded absolutely no solution whatsoever. But what can we do in a conflict? There are certain guidelines to how to resolve a conflict, and we can evaluate the importance of the goal and the importance of the relationship that we're in. If neither the goal nor the relationship are important, we can just step out of the situation and decide that we won't take part, we withdraw, and we neither gain but neither lose nothing. When the goal is very important but the relationship is not, we can try to overcome the other person, or we use legitimate power and just decide on our own. This can sometimes be helpful or useful when we are in a situation that demands a quick reaction, but in a long-term relationship, it's very rarely the occasion that such a solution is a good one. We can believe that the relationship is very important, but the goal is not. Then we try to resolve the conflict, discuss, come to a solution. And when both are moderately important, we accept a compromise. When both are very important, we use a confrontation, we use problem-solving techniques, and we're going to discuss now one of the best problem-solving techniques. It was created by Dewey. It tries to solve a problem using 6 steps. The first one is having a good definition of a problem. It means that we describe what the problem is. It means creating a short essay on what the problem is. This essay can include a lot of detail, and it can help us to set the background, to clarify a few issues, and it can help us somehow realize what the important parts of the situation are. Then we start looking for solutions, and one of the best ways to do that is to use the brainstorming, which means that we just give solutions without evaluating them. We use free associations, so we ask ourselves, what is the best possible business idea? And we start saying it can be creating a new product, it can be selling great massages, it can be writing a book. In this brainstorming part of the problem solving, we can even use some ideas that just come up and which we know that are worthless and we're going to exclude them later on. But while we're in the process of using free associations, we just say everything that comes to mind. Like in these pictures, ideas should fall. And if this is a group situation, we should come up with at least 7, if not many more possible solutions. Of course, later on, we're going to evaluate these solutions. We can use a scale from 1 to 5 or from 1 to 7. We can even use percentages. We decide upon the criteria by which we're going to evaluate these solutions. These can be financial availability, it can be the knowledge that we possess or don't possess to do or carry out the solution. It can be the time load of the solution. Most of the time, we will come up with one solution that is perhaps evaluated better than the others, and then it means that this is the solution that we continue with. But now and then we can come up with 2 or more solutions that are both or all of them rated the same with the same number. So for example, we can have 3 solutions that are perhaps graded with 5 on a 1 to 5 scale. We can perhaps merge a couple of options. We can combine several parts of these solutions. But if we really cannot combine or merge solutions, we then further evaluate both of them. So which are the benefits and costs of each one, and then compare and then decide upon the solution. Then we write down the execution plan, and once we've executed this plan, check for the success of the solution. This is one of the best problem-solving techniques we have, but sometimes we see that the problem lies elsewhere. The problem could be in a different perspective that me and my partner are viewing the situation from, and for equalizing the perspective, we can use the bonus technique of 6 thinking hats. The bonus said that we can define 6 main perspectives that guide our view of a situation. For example, if we have on the red hat, we are very emotional. We're looking at the issue from the emotional perspective, what is good, what is how intense it is, what our gut feeling is. The yellow perspective is the optimistic one. The green hat represents the creativity or a creative perspective. Of course, the black hat represents the pessimistic view. The white hat represents the facts. And the blue hat represents the perspective that somehow leads the thinking process, somehow the logistical guide of equalizing perspectives. And for taking a further look at this method, you're going to have a special PowerPoint, and you're going to take a look at each special perspective, and a part of your homework is going to be using those different hats to think about a certain issue. Your homework, your final homework, I believe is going to be quite interesting. You're going to imagine that you find yourselves in one of the suggested scenarios. One of the scenarios is going to be from a sport or from an athletic perspective, and one from a business perspective. And you're going to pick one of those scenarios and look at that from different perspectives. So what would the black hat say about the situation? What would be the red hat view of this situation? So first you're going to take a look at different perspectives, and then you will try to solve this situation by using Dewey's method of problem solving in 6 steps. You will write about your process. You'll fill out the table that will be provided for you. And then you will read a couple of your peers' solutions and processes and give them a brief comment. Would you do it the same way? What is the difference between your solutions and your views? And you will finish the homework, as always, by solving the quiz. Um, this brings us to the end of these videos. I would like to thank you very much for listening, for taking part in this module of the AtLETyC project. I hope you've learned something. I hope you've enjoyed it. And of course, I wish you good luck with this homework. And if you have any additional questions, of course, I will be happy to answer them for you. Goodbye and good luck with the continuation of the project.